Alright, hello and welcome to today's Unity class for the Prodigy Game Design path. Now today we are going to be working on our shooting code again, because currently if I were to try to shoot one of these squares, you'll notice a whole bunch of ammo comes out, and it not only does it stay there, right? We want that to eventually fade, but it comes out like a stream and pushes me back a little bit. Now, there's a lot of reasons it does that, uh, but there's a very simple way for us to go and fix it. We're going to code this together. So let's go back into our looking controller script, and we're going to work in here. Now let me zoom in so you can see everything. Alright, so now that we're in our looking control script, I'm going to go right back to these three variables I added, and I'm going to add another one, right? And I'm going to go public float fire rate. Alright, and we're going to use fire rate to determine how quickly we shoot off one bullet at a time. Now, to do this, we're going to use fire rate, but we're going to go all the way down to our aim script. Okay, so now within our aim script, we're going to need a few things. We have fire rate, but now we're going to also need a variable to compare fire rate to, which is going to be time plus our fire rate. And we're going to need the moment that our bullet was last fired. So, in order to work with this, we're actually going to need to add another variable up at the top, but I'm going to add it above void aim here just because we're only ever going to use it here. All right, and we're going to make it private, and we're going to call it private float, and let's call it last shot. And we can instantiate it right there, right above our void aim. That is perfectly fine. So now what we'll do is right under where we get the rigid body and add force, here on my line 48, your line might be different, we're going to add a new line that says last shot equals time dot time. And you'll see time dot time referenced in your references in today's little lesson post, right? What we're doing here by calling time dot time is we're getting the exact amount of time from the beginning of game that we are currently at. So this lets us record that in like a snapshot. Now we can use time dot time in relation to the current, the last shot variable, right? And our fire rate variable, all in conjunction to compare to each other and create this script. That might sound confusing. I might have worded that a little bit complicatedly, but it'll make sense as we go along and do this here. So if get key code space, right? This is our only variable to fire off another shot. We're going to add a new one. To do this, we're going to do the ampersand twice. This is shift 7, for those of you who don't know, and this means and when we're talking about logic. And we want to check if time dot time is more than or equal to the last shot. Or we really want to look for if time.time plus our fire rate is more than or equal to our last shot. So let's do that. We can easily go last shot is less than or equal to time dot time plus fire rate. And then I'm going to put this in parentheses here just for my sake, but you don't need to do that. All you need is this base logic here. So last shot is less than or equal to time.time plus fire rate. And with that one bit of code there, we're going to fix everything we have going with that and it's shooting too fast. So I'm going to give you a minute to really get that down. Awesome, awesome. Now if we go back to our code, or our game, we let that load in, I'll show you what it looks like. So now, if we're sitting here and, doing whatever, we shoot, oh, it's still going crazy. Well, why is it going crazy? We never set what that fire rate is. Main camera, going down, fire rate 0, and let's say fire rate is 5. This might be a little bit long, might be a little bit short, let's see. Alright, it appears 5 is still a little bit quick. I will check out what that question is. I'm not too sure exactly what you're referencing. If one of your brackets has an error code under it, it could be that you have an extra one. I will do that as soon as I'm done with what we're going over in class today, okay? And I'll help you figure that out. We'll also look at the code again. Oh, okay, because you might have, yeah, you don't have matching parentheses. I'll pull up the code again and you'll be able to see. So, going through here, let's set fire rate to now 500 because so your problem is probably over here with these two parentheses I added. For your sake, just get rid of these. You don't necessarily need them. All you need is the logic there of last shot is less than or equal to time.time plus fire rate. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to take fire rate and multiply it by time dot delta time. So that stays in line with how time.time is. And we might be getting some sort of bug there that's causing this to go crazy. We don't want that. What we're also going to do is move last shot up in the turn order so that it is above the instantiation, because we want to make sure that that is always procking and always going through. Anyway.
Hey Jacob, can I get a second to copy everything instead of the public class?
Yep.
Thank you.
Did you need to go up or just here?
At the very top.
Oh, at the very top. Okay.
Thank you.
Alright. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Alright. So now we have that. Let's go ahead and save that, and we'll try it again. So it still likes to shoot at a whole bunch at once, for whatever reason. That's not necessarily the most fun thing, but there are ways. Of fixing it. Now we notice we have an error here, and I've had this written before for previous versions of Unity, but it would appear it doesn't like to work in this one. And there's a lot of things that could be the reason. I think what we can do is actually take plus fire rate times time.delta time, remove that from the top here, and go to last shot and add it. What this does is it just moves around what we have. So now last shot is going to be theoretically greater than time.time now that we are adding to time.time. And time.time constantly increases, so that'll probably fix our code. Again, we just took it from the top and we put it down here. So we'll give that a try. Yep, and that works. And although 20 million seconds is probably way too many. Yep, every fifth second. And see, it's not like going all crazy on us now. So now we have our bullets firing at a more reasonable rate for what we want. We still want the bullets to eventually disappear and to not clutter up our game scene. And to do this, we're going to actually make a new script altogether. We're going to make something called an IE numerable that is going to help us when it comes to timing when to destroy these objects. So we're going to do we're going to create a C# script, and we're going to go to the name and name it something along the lines of bullet or shot. I'm going to call it shot script. And then I'm going to open that up in my Visual Studios. We actually do not need update for this one, so I'm going to get rid of update. And now we're going to use something very special, and it's called an IE numeral. Now, if you go to the class and you go to the references, you should be able to see this window here. in reference to IEnumerable and starting coroutine, another way to time, right? And this has to do with using yield statements in order to wait for a certain amount of seconds. Now, what do I mean by yield statements, right? Well, what it does is it references the computer's clock for this one. The reason IEnumerables are in some ways better, in some ways worse, is because you can stop an IEnumerable. There are different functions that let you pause what's going on. You can also pause the game clock. But it's another way of doing this. It's another tool that's given to you, and they are both useful in different capacities. Like, one object can have multiple IEnumerable statements running at the same time. And that can get hard to think of, but it could be all the same function. But you could call it off of a command and they would overlap, whereas a regular function would not necessarily overlap but wait for the last one to complete, unless you set it up differently. But everything goes in an order. This lets it break that order a little bit. Anyway, we're going to want to make an IEnumerable, and if we look at how they're functioned, uh, instead of like making a normal function void start, where we would do like public void something or just void something, instead they are IEnumerable name and then a variable, right? And we're gonna want a variable, so we're gonna do IEnumerable despawn float despawn time. Okay, so let's go into our code and go private IEnumerable despawn float despawn time. And it's gonna have it read here because we do not yet return a value. So going back to our reference, you'll see that it has yield return wait for seconds wait time, right? This is what we really need in order to get this to work. What this does is it will return something after a certain amount of seconds have passed. Uh, and then it will do whatever's at the bottom here. So, in order to get that working, we go to our script. I'm going to type in yield return to wait for seconds. And then we got to give it a float. And we want our bullets, let's say, to despawn in 15 seconds. And then after this, right, and let's make sure we have it right, return new wait for seconds time, we do. So now after we have our 15 seconds, we want to destroy this game object, lowercase g. Now, what does this mean? Why are we doing this? Why are we using destroy? Well, normally I like to turn objects off, because in some cases you want to reference an object that has been killed. As far as a bullet goes, you don't necessarily want to always um, reference it. You're spawning hundreds of these. To deactivate them individually would just cause your game to have to process too many ghost objects, and you would end up lagging out your game. So for these purposes, and I would encourage you for others, destroy your bullet objects. Anyway, to call this enumerable in the start, we're going to do start coroutine right here. And coroutine, again, stands for an enumerable. It stands for that you can run multiple of these at once. And now we're actually going to go into parentheses, and we're going to write despawn. I know that feels weird. You actually don't need the parentheses. It's a bit of a habit, but because there's another way you can write them, but I like to write it as this. Start coroutine despawn. So it's going to look through itself for the numerable named despawn and run it. So that means in 15 seconds, whenever we spawn an object with this script attached, it will be destroyed. I'm going to give you guys a second to copy that down. And then we're going to move on. Alright, awesome. Awesome. So, now if we go back to our game scene, load this in, we're going to go to actually our prefabs. We're going to go to our shot, the one we made that we shoot. And we are going to add to this prefab. Going down, we're going to add a component. And we are looking for shot script. Go ahead and slap it on there. Once you have shot script on your prefab, everything should be hunky-dory and working. You launch your bullet, and then after a few seconds it'll disappear. So let's just look at that bullet and wait. It's gonna be 15 seconds of waiting. So it's not a little bit. Failed to call function despawn of class shot script. So we have an error. Okay. So we are looking for this float here that we don't actually need because we are not calling for it. So let's get rid of that in our code. And why is having a bit of an error? Just a second. It's weird. I think my trackpad is having an error. We'll use a mouse. Oh, that is a nifty problem. How do I fix this? Alright, so I can move there, so it's just trapping me in here. That's good. Well, managed to fix that. Sorry about that. My mouse was not moving no matter how hard I tried. Anyway, now that we have this fixed in here, we jump back to our code. I'll hit play. We'll see that this should work. Let's spawn in a few. Let's go up and stare at them. Ooh, they like neatly stacked on top of each other. That's funny. I'm gonna fight my player trying to fall over. Of eventually they should disappear. We can probably just go find the other ones. Yeah. So we've definitely shot more than that. Shoot some now. And there we go. Now our bullets should destroy themselves after a float of 15, which I think a float of 15 is much longer than 15 seconds, so I'm gonna change that. But at the end of the day, this script does in fact function. Yep. And then once we have that, that'll be it for today. Um, if you have any questions, feel free to hang out. I'm gonna stop the recording. But we gotta make sure that we have this in there, and that when we go to our other script, that we have everything timed out. Now, the big challenge I want for you guys before next class is to try and make your own enemy based off of all of the movement scripts that we've worked on in the past. They can run into you. They can try to shoot at you. That is necessarily, or that is not necessary. That is up to you. Um, don't worry about succeeding or failing. Just give it an attempt. That's all I'm asking. And then we're going to go over that Tuesday next class. Anyway, hope you enjoyed and have a nice day.